Consider supporting the Sci-Fi Collective on Patreon from only $1 a month. Link below in the description.
So first off, we're going to go straight to the original series. We're bringing on two people from the classic Trek, Pavel Chekhov and a stunt performer that has spanned generations of Star Trek. Please welcome to the stage Walter Koenig and Sandra Gimple. Right, do we have any questions for Walter or Sandra? Well, they just want to take your photo. This is a lot easier. No questions? Brilliant.
Surely you have a question. Yes, lady in the...
Yes. If you could stand up and...
1, 2.
Thank you, Sam from the Trekkie Girls. Sandra, I was wondering if you could tell us about your roles in Star Trek.
I'm sorry, could you speak up a little bit, please?
I'm sorry. I'm always scared I'm going to shout people down. Sam from the Trekkie Girls, I was wondering if Sandra wouldn't mind telling us a bit more about her roles in Star Trek, please.
That was the Trekkie Girls would like to ask you about your role in the show.
Sorry, it's hard to hear. I actually did the pilot. I was the Telosian in Salt, and I was a salt vampire in Mantrap because I got to suck out the salt out of Bill Shatner's face.
Do we have any other questions? Yes, with the grey top. Can you read?
Hi, Josh from Second Union. Walter, what I'm interested to know is, you didn't join until season 2. What was it like stepping onto set for that first day? They'd already been there for one full season. Was it daunting? How was it for you?
Well, you know, my first consideration, my first thought was, wow, I get a whole week's work. And I'm going to get paid for a whole week's worth of shooting. You know, Star Trek had, in the first season, had a very turbulent existence. There was a very partisan group who were very passionate about the show, and and evidently the networks were far less enthusiastic. I knew very little of the history. I didn't know what I was getting involved in, and as far as I was concerned, I'd seen a couple of scenes on television and thought, oh Lord, more styrofoam and rocks, you know, and it didn't really catch my attention. So I had no predetermined idea of what this meant or that it was going to affect me for the next 50 years of my life. I was there for a few days' work, and then I'd go about the rest of my life. So, you know, life in general is unpredictable, and particularly with Star Trek, it's capricious. Situation that I initially considered to be something that I might have trouble remembering in a month's time has consumed most of my life. So that's where I was coming from.
And I think we had time for one more question. Someone else had their hand up. Yes, the lady. I will ask, can you speak loudly? Because we're having a little bit of feedback, and the speakers, when you're talking, it's coming through that way, facing away as well. So we're having a little trouble hearing.
I'm from America, so I'm going to do fine with the volume.
And so, your name and where you're from?
My name is Ella, so I'm from the US, and I'm here with a podcast called Enterprising Individuals. You were just talking about how Star Trek has taken up your entire life, and I just wanted to ask if you could talk a little bit about what it's like still touring after all these years, and now you're here in Europe, and I guess just what that experience is like.
You know, I feel very lucky. I have mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings about Star Trek. Certainly, you know, it has provided me with an income. It has provided me with a career fairly much on the margins, but still a career after 50 years, which is quite an event for somebody who's an actor to be able to hang around that long. So I am enormously grateful for the opportunity to still be coming to conventions, meeting people. By the way, conventions are one of the nicest things that happens to me. And it's very therapeutic. Everybody makes me feel like I'm still, that I still have some significance in this business, and that I'm viable. That's all very encouraging. And audiences, fan audiences, the world over, as far as wherever I've been, have always been extraordinarily supportive. Just amazing. It may not be a reflection of the world in general, but certainly the people who come to conventions truly are dedicated and loyal, and they love all the actors that appear. So I always think of this as being a very positive situation. I was here just 2 years ago, so I'm surprised that I'm back this quickly. But I look forward to this weekend as I have to all the weekends. I know I sound like a company man, you know, I sound like the guy that I'm supposed to say these things. But if you ask me about Donald Trump, I'll give you a whole different story.
And on that note...
So, again, on behalf of myself and all the people you'll be talking to, it's a very welcoming, very warming, very positive experience to be able to say hello to you all once more.
And with that, please give a round of applause to Walter Koenig and Simon Gimbel. Thank you very much. Do you want to take some photos first of the two? Are you okay for photos? I don't think you can grab those and stuff. Right, and one question I will ask before we give in the next group on. Could you hear that okay? Because we're not hearing great on the stage, but you guys are okay with that? Brilliant, okay. Okay, we're now going to move on to our next group from Deep Space Nine. This is the first of 4 groups. Obviously, this year is the 25th anniversary, Deep Space Nine. We've got a documentary premiering this weekend as well. In this group we have Major Kira Nerys, Security Chief Odo, and Cardassians Garrick and Damar. Please give a warm welcome to Nana Visitor, Renée Auberjonois, Andrew Robinson, and Casey Biggs.
So you got up this early just for us?
Take it away.
It's not early.
Right, do we have questions? Yes, at the front with the glasses. And remember, when it comes forward, speak loudly because we can't quite hear you as well.
And clearly, speak clearly. My dog ate one of my hearing aids.
I'll speak as clearly as I can. It's Duncan Barrett here from Trek FM. I know a lot of you, probably all of you I think, have been taking part recently in the What We Left Behind documentary. What was it like going back and kind of looking back on some of those memories from 20 years ago? And were there things that sort of surprised you that you'd forgotten about in the intervening period?
Was that directed?
I missed the first part. I missed the first part of your question.
It's a general question.
Oh, you're right.
What was it like to you know what? It seems like all of the show is so tactilely close all the time. We go to conventions, we see bits and pieces of, nothing was a surprise. It was just a joy to see everybody in the documentary. And my favorite bit is seeing us greet each other. And there was one director who called us a pack of wild dogs when we were all in the same scene when we were filming, because it was like herding spiders. We couldn't stop talking to each other, and it was exactly that way. You see it in the documentary, and that was a joy to see. And what was fun is in the the Los Angeles premiere, we all got on stage and it was exactly the same way. We were a pack again. We're just this wild community, and that's the best part of it.
It does feel, it feels like it was 2 years ago that the thing closed, the show closed. And because we get to see each other a few times a year or whatever, and you know, you have a cup of coffee and a bagel and you're 80. What the fuck happened? Oh, I'm sorry. But that's true. I mean, it moves so fast, but this thing has lived with us and with these guys even more than I. It becomes part of your cellular memory. And it's such a treat to get back together with the family. I'm the only one up here, I think, who hasn't seen it yet. So I'll see it tonight, and then I'll give you my review.
Oh, yeah, you're in for a trip. You were cut.
Next question. Yep, at the front with the blue disco top.
Hello there, my name's Mark, and I'm reporting for Geek Ireland. Have you seen the new Star Trek Discovery show, and what do you think of it?
I haven't seen it.
But
I'm in love with Michelle Yeoh, so I mean, you know, that...
She speaks very highly of you, too.
I hope so.
I saw the first few episodes, but you know, over here you don't have to pay for it. In the States, we have to pay for it. And actors are notoriously cheap, so until it comes on Netflix for free, I don't know if I'll watch the whole thing. But the cast is fantastic. We think they're fabulous, although they do have another Englishman as the captain, don't they? When are you guys going to stop doing that? Getting these English guys to be the captain of our ships. What's up with that? But what we love about it the most is that it continues the Star Trek brand. It'll take it on into the future. And then with Patrick doing a new show, right? Patrick's doing another one, right? So that's, and it's also, they spend a whole lot more money on that than they ever spent on our shows.
Oh my God.
Okay, we had a question with the blue top.
Sorry, I just hit myself in the microphone. Ben Mortimer, Den of Geek. Sort of elaborating on a little bit on the Discovery thing. You guys obviously had this show that was very much continuing drama, dealing with perhaps slightly darker issues than your predecessor, or indeed the shows that came after. I wonder whether you see how much of DS9 you see reflected in the way the series has gone recently, in nowadays Discovery and wherever we go next.
Not having seen Discovery, I defer to my colleagues.
It's darker, and our show is dark. We were the black sheep of the family, I think, weren't we? I mean...
We definitely were. Now, I've only seen the first 3 episodes as well, and I understand as you go, it takes a darker turn. But we all stood on the shoulders of the show before, and rightly so that they build on what we did. And I certainly saw elements of Kira in the first 3 episodes, and I loved it. I was proud of it. I was glad.
We have time for one last question. I'm going to chat with the tie at the back.
James from Riker's Beard. A short question for each of you. What is the reason you would give to say Deep Space Nine is the best of the Star Trek series?
Was it the best? It was the best for us. I think at the time, the very darkness, the neurotic quality of the characters gave it a kind of a texture and a depth that perhaps was not part of the other versions. And I think that now its life on Netflix and other streaming services allows people to watch the arc of the show in a way that they couldn't see it when it came episodically. They can also see all of us getting older as it goes along. You know, but not to be cynical, the fact is, as the further away we get from the actual creation of a piece of work, it starts taking on different qualities, and in some ways, like the original, can look kind of quaint and naive as technology and style changes things. So, you know, it was the best, I think, if it was the best because of the writers and, well, all versions of Star Trek had wonderful actors in them. I think we had an incredibly deep bench, an overused phrase, but a lot of wonderfully well-trained pros, real professionals. And that, of course, makes a big difference over the long haul. 7 years is a long time to tell one story, and sometimes you run out of steam if you don't have thoroughbreds.
I'd say that it has longevity because it explored that the biggest journey that individuals can take is the journey inward. And I think that that was the journey that would happen, the 12-inch journey. And I think that we had a lot of heart.
Also, I would say, echoing what Renee said, is the writing was fantastic. And the difference in our show was we didn't have, you know, the bad alien of the week situation. They had huge story arcs, and the writers invested in all of the characters, so you could care about all of them as they went through, rather than here's a bad alien, we'll get rid of him this week and the next one. So I think it was the writers and the fact that they had these big, huge, long story arcs.
All of the above. And with that, please give a round of applause. Thank you very much, guys.
We'll see you this week. We're going to have a good time. Cheers.
Okay. So now we move to Star Trek The Next Generation with Councillor Troy, Dr. Beverly Crusher, and Worf, son of Moog. Please welcome Marina Sirtis, Gaze McFadden, and Michael Dorn. Okay, questions? Okay, in the red. Wearing a red shirt to this event, not good.
It's okay, it's Next Generation era. So. I'm Tom Pritchard from Gizmodo UK, and I have a question for Michael about his future as Worf. I know for many years you were pushing for a Worf-centric series. Now that CBS have promised to invest more time in Star Trek, do you see that happening, and would you do it?
Yes, I think there's a chance now. Before this last announcement of all the interest they have in doing that, I didn't think it was going to happen, but I'm encouraged. And yeah, I would definitely do it again, but it would have to be the right situation, and everything would have to be sort of like along the lines that the script is, and that would be fine. But yeah, I'd love to do it.
Okay, next question. Yeah, okay.
Hi, Duncan Barrett, Trek FM. This is a question for Marina. We've recently been talking a lot about mental health because it's been Mental Health Week, and I think the conversation on mental health has moved on a lot over the years. But in the 80s, when Next Gen was debuting, it was quite a radical thing to have a mental health professional on the bridge of the Starship. Did you see that as a kind of responsibility in any way, performing that role? I mean, did that seem like a big deal to you at the time?
It didn't, actually. I did have the conversation with Gene Roddenberry about it, and he felt that by the 24th century, mental health would be as important as physical health. But then, when it came to, he felt he had too many women on the show and one of us had to go, it was going to be me. Because, you know, it was like, well, we've got, you know, we need a doctor, we need a security chief, but if we've got to get rid of one of the girls, we'll lose the psychologist, you know. So, he had good intentions, but when push came to shove, it was like, well, you know, she can go. So, it was groundbreaking. I mean, I have been watching, I've been here since Tuesday, and I have been watching a lot of the stuff about mental health. The wonderful thing about it is that people talk about it now. People talk, you know, people aren't embarrassed to say, well, yes, I've had a difficult time. I had to be on antidepressants or anti-anxiety drugs or whatever for a while. Which is good, because I've had mental health issues in my life, and I've had to go on medication. And when it first happened, you feel that there was such a stigma that you felt that you were mad, that there was something seriously wrong with you. And basically, it's a chemical imbalance. And, you know, if you were diabetic, you wouldn't think twice about taking your insulin every day, would you? But with anything to do with the brain, people get really funny about it. So it's a really good place that we're at now, that we can talk about it. Have to say, in America, it's not there yet. So I'm really glad that in England we're speaking up about it, because no one's life is perfect, and everyone might need it. A lot of people might need a little bit of help to get through certain situations in life, and it shouldn't be something that we're ashamed of.
Okay, we have a question over at the side behind Trek Island, so you might have to move out of the way for a second.
Hi, Wayne from TrekMate and Sci-Fi Collective. Just wanted to ask, with The Next Generation being the first TV iteration since the original series, how much pressure did you guys feel going in, or was there any real anticipation of the pressure that the franchise would hold for you? And also, going forward with new blood coming into the franchise, has there been any points that you've met the New Discovery guys and gave them advice on how to deal with the fan base and the pressure that might come along with that?
Yes, I mean, we've met the Discovery cast. I'll speak for myself. I think they're fantastic, and they have a fantastic show and a great vibe. It looks phenomenal as well. The anthropomorphic lens is stunning. I think they are handling it. They know how to handle it. They are very savvy about social media and all kinds of things, and they were very, very excited to meet fans. I feel that they were free to ask us whatever, and we said, yeah, the fans are awesome for this show. Love them and they'll love you back. And for me, I had no clue. I had not watched the show when I was cast, so I had really no clue that this was going to be a series that had such a fan base. And it took me a long time to appreciate and understand it. And now I am totally honored to be part of it. I think the fans are amazing. I have friends now who are fans, and I've learned a lot from different people who I've met through the years, and am over the moon when a woman comes up to me, or a man, who says, hi, I don't really need an autograph, but I just wanted to say I became a surgeon because of your character. I mean, that's like the coolest thing. That's like fabulous, and that we all get that.
Yeah, but you got to remember, you know, you because TNG was so successful, you forget, you lot, that we were not welcomed with open arms when we started. The die-hard TOS fans were really pissed off. It was like, how dare you try to take the place of our heroes? Who the hell do you think you are? And that was the attitude we got for a couple of years, actually.
And you remember Will? I mean, people went after
They
Will.
hated Will Wheaton.
Like they said, how would a young kid be saving the ship every week? And of course, now every, you know, tech company is run by someone who was his age at the time. And all of the people, I'm always asking my son, how can I fix this app? It's not working, you know. It was very prophetic what Gene did.
Yeah, but you know, we had to win our audience. The audience was not happy that we were here at all.
Okay, we have time for one last question from at the front.
It's great to hear that you're here, guys. How would you fancy...
name and...
Darren Price, Express and Star. How would you fancy reprising your roles in Sir Patrick's forthcoming series?
Well, let's just get this straight, right? When he had made the announcement that Jean-Luc Picard is back in Las Vegas, he didn't say Star Trek The Next Generation is back. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, I mean, Michael doesn't know this yet, but I think that rather than be Dr. Crusher, I might be playing Lieutenant Worf, but it's not clear yet. We're waiting on that.
We're not holding our breath, let's put it that way.
Yeah, for me, I'll speak for myself.
No, you should speak for us, Tony.
I think that we don't know what's going to happen with the show. We don't know where they're going or anything like that.
We know it's 20 years in the future.
But I don't want to be part of it if it's just like a cameo, you know, or just sort of like he shows up and
stunt casting.
Yeah,
stunt
you know,
casting.
like, you know, oh, Mr. Worf, what are you doing here? You know, that kind of thing. First of all, because, you know, I'd have to put on makeup, you know, for once again, and only if it's very important, then yes. But like I agree with
Would you
Marina.
wear a red wig? You would do that, right?
A red wig?
If I were doing Worf, would you do that?
Would I play Dr. Crusher?
Yeah. Come on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I'm agree with Marina. I would say that I wouldn't think that we're going to be involved in it. I would not think so. But it's life in the big city.
And with that, thank you, Gates, Michael, and
Thank you
Marina.
very much.
The problem with having glasses to read. Okay. So, we actually have a non-Star Trek guest here, but it is someone who has boldly gone further than all of us in this room have. He is one of only 24 people who have travelled to the moon. You've seen his exploits in the movie Apollo 13, where he was portrayed by Bill Paxton. Please give a warm welcome to NASA astronaut Fred Hayes. Okay, questions for Fred? Yep.
Hiya, Wayne from the Sci-Fi Collective. Considering the length of your trip, what was the in thing to do on the lunar module? How did you pass your time without going stir crazy and having punch-ups?
Well, that trip, unfortunately, was pretty short. We would have been about 11 days, and it ended up we only had 6 days. Now, I spent a lot of time just looking out the window. In between times, we got fed the next set of procedures to execute things that they had to figure out. Frankly, they never planned to have to figure out on that mission. So we had some dwell times. For the first 2 days, the way we changed our duties, I was on alone for 2 days, and Jack Swigert and Jim Lovell would be off duty in the mothership, but pretty soon it got so cold in there, we all huddled in the lunar module, all of us at the same time. So mainly the views were just, one of the two things that were most unusual for me about flying in space from my airplane experience. I had been a military pilot in 2 fighter squadrons, and I was a test pilot for NASA for 7 years. So what was most unusual was the views out the window, either from Earth orbit or certainly out about the moon. Sometimes I'd look out and sort of pinch myself, am I really here looking at what I'm looking at? The other was zero gravity. Never experienced zero gravity on a continuum basis.
Okay, at the front with the white t-shirt.
Hi there, Lee Hutchison from the Nerd Party. My question is, do you still think kids want to be astronauts when they grow up? I remember being a young kid, that was my dream. Do you think this generation still wants to reach for the stars?
Yeah, I still see that quite a bit. I talk to children at schools, talk to children at events. I've been involved now 12 years with Infinity Science Center. In fact, I was on the board of directors, helped to raise $40 million to build it and get it operational that we now operate. And we have a lot of children's groups come through there, some of them on school field trips, that kind of thing. No, I think they do. I think children are excited, not just about space, I think they enjoy aviation. Aviation intrigues them as well, even though we've had aviation for quite a few years now. But they can wish for that now. When I was young, there were no astronauts. Except Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers. They were around in comic strips and on serials and movies, but you couldn't want to be an astronaut. In fact, I had served 4 years in the Marine Corps in fighter squadrons, and when I got out, there still was not a space program. And went back to school at university to get an engineering degree. So it wasn't until I finished college on that NASA Sputnik flew, and of course NASA got in the program, creation of the Mercury program, first manned program.
Okay, we have a question from Trek Ireland. I'm not deliberately making you run from side to side, I swear to God.
Mr. Hayes, it's an absolute honor to meet yourself as a massive space fan. And as you know, Mr. Hayes was the first commander of the Enterprise, given that it was the shuttle that was the approach and landing tests. The question I want to ask is, you retired from NASA in 1977 to 78. Do you regret not being able to fly the shuttle itself into space?
It's 1979. I was slated to fly the third mission with Jack Lausma, and I would have stayed had we kept the mission. We were going to plan to go rescue Skylab. It was up there and it was falling in. And the plan was we're going to go up and rendezvous on that flight, and Jack was going to fly over a little kick stage that we would dock with Skylab, and then people on the ground would decide whether to deorbit it or boost it up to preserve its lifetime. That mission went away, and the mission it fell into was basically a thermal test mission that sit on orbit. As it turned out, they got delayed entry, so they were up for 8 days, I think. And sit in various attitudes with thermocouples on Columbia to collect thermal data. So that mission in itself, I was interested in what you do on the mission. I'd seen the Earth from Earth orbit, so I wasn't interested in just going around in circles to look at the Earth some more. If I couldn't do a productive, from a piloting standpoint, flight, I just wasn't interested. So I spent the next 17 years in aerospace for Grumman Corporation and then Northrop Grumman.
Okay, we have time for one last question. Yep.
James Rikers here. Mr. Hayes, I'm literally in awe of the opportunity to speak to you for what you've done. What would you give as the principal reason why we need to get back out into space beyond low Earth orbit, which is pretty much all we've done since Apollo?
Well, I don't know that there's a principal reason. Philosophically, I think the intent of the space program over a very long term should be to continue exploration. Unfortunately, right now we're limited just because of our technology to do much more than look at things in the solar system. We've not developed warp drive yet, So to go much further beyond our solar system just was not feasible. Even if they're finding planets that look potentially to be the right planet, maybe to even have life. But even if we found life right now, we would not have the means to go to that planet. So my hope is that over a very long term, we will continue to look at the technology that will enable us to go further. And sort of the destiny of the human race is to preserve the human race. As you know, on Earth, those that go to Google and crank in extinctions in Google, you'll see that there's been 4 to 5 major events on Earth where much of life form that had evolved at those times have disappeared. The dinosaurs being the one most of us think about. But I think the larger extinction was even about 200 years before the dinosaurs. They even took out a lot of aquatic animals. So anyway, that's something to think about. Should we use some of the things we've been blessed with, our talent? We're uniquely, I think, the first creatures that can do the things we're doing. We're the first creatures that have evolved here on Earth that could do that.
Okay, and with that, please give a massive round of applause to Fred Hayes. Okay. So we now have our second DS9 group, of which we have Dr. Bashir, Commander Jadzia Dax, Chancellor Gowron, and one of only 5 actors to play more than 7 roles in Star Trek, including Cardassians, Romulans, and Klingons. Welcome Alexander Siddig, Terry Farrell, Robert O'Reilly, and Vaughn Armstrong. Now the problem here is they've probably just met Fred, and now they don't want to let him go. Wait, here we go.
Hello.
Okay, question? Yep, in the blue shirt.
Hello, Ben from Den of Geek. Recently, Trek fans have sort of, well, not fans, there have been people complaining about sort of inclusion and the sort of politicization of Trek. Obviously, DS9, you had a character who had been both female and male. You had a doctor who was of descent.
Dubious origin.
Well, indeed. And all sorts of other characters who were very much progressive characters 25 years ago, and people barely batted an eyelid at that. And I'm just curious about your thoughts on why the response has been so different, or why you were more accepted, why it wasn't even considered an issue 25 years ago, and now people are being such cretinous asses about it.
Is that to the entire cast, or
the entire cast, if possible?
Are people, just to clarify, are people upset that it's not inclusive enough? They think it's overly inclusive, we're too politically correct. Got it. That's just awful, isn't it? When everybody's welcome. It's a disgusting thing. It's just disgusting. It disgusts me.
What a terrible club to be a part of. Yeah, to me that sort of epitomizes Star Trek though, is that it's all inclusive. Hasn't it always been? Yeah.
Star Trek we just ran into the period of our lives which we all happen to be sharing right now, where most of the human race hates the other half of the human race. I've never noticed it being quite as bad as it is in America or in England. You know.
Everybody's kind of disgruntled in our country right now. Everybody hates everybody, and you really have to be careful what you say, or you're going to jail. You know, where you touch. If I wrap my arm around her, see, it's a lawsuit right there. I touched her shoulder, and I'm going to jail.
Me too.
Yeah, so it's, you know, I hate to say it, but it's kind of an administrational problem, in my opinion.
I agree.
To me, good writers, good artists tell the future. And
That's what Star Trek always did.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it just tells more about at this age than it does about Star Trek.
Okay, second question at the front.
Hi, Clive Burrell from Some Kind of Star Trek. Guys, you've got a lot of experience from the Star Trek universe. 3 of you have featured in 2 series. Do you find that sort of 25, 30 years on, there are particular scenes and moments that have resonated particularly well with fans that they're always going to come into you and asking you about, or saying that had influenced their life in a particular way?
Well, I have one immediately. I was signing some stuff and a kid came up and he said to me, Mr. Armstrong, I just have to tell you that you saved my life. And I said, what? I did what? And he said, well, I was thinking about committing suicide that day, and I saw Admiral Forrest in Broken Bow, and you said something there that just made me change my mind. And that blew me away, and does still today. I don't know how a television series can save somebody's life, but apparently it did this kid's. So it does happen, yeah.
I have nothing to compare to that. That's wonderful. It just gave me the chills. But the only thing anybody, there's one particular line that people always want me to say, so I'll say it. Get it over with. Someday the Doors family will rule the empire, and I say, and this was the key to Gowron because they gave a Klingon a sense of humor, and I go, perhaps, but not today.
We have, yep, over there.
Can I just say, yes, definitely playing Dax. I have a lot of people come up to me and say that they feel grateful for the episode where, oh my God, no, I can't think of the name of the episode, but when I have...
We're not supposed to remember the names.
No, we're not supposed to, are we?
I think if you say what you were saying about, someone here will know the name of the episode.
Rejoin, thank you. You know what, it was in my head and I'm thinking, that can't be right.
What is rejoined?
What is rejoin? Yeah, I know, that went through my head. But people, transgender, come up to me, and gay people come up to me and say, that was the moment I realized there was nothing wrong with me, that I felt accepted, because love was love in that episode, and it was just about being 2 people that loved each other. And that has intensified over the years, the amount of people that have come up to me. And I mean, I didn't write it, I'm just honored I got to play it. So,
Didn't you date interspecially? Was there one point where you dated someone from a different species?
oh, yeah, I think
That's pretty radical. Dogs and cats living together.
I don't think it was bestiality, but it was definitely on the pansexual range with Dax, right? So that was cool, I thought, about her. Because I didn't even know what that was then, but yeah.
None of us did.
Yeah.
This is a really new debate.
Okay, so
there you go.
Hi, Wayne from the Sci-Fi Collective. Just wondering, with Deep Space Nine being allowed to be its own beast, whilst everybody concentrated on the next generation, you was able to explore a lot of stories that wouldn't have been explored if you had the limelight of Next Gen. And with those including whether it was questioning religion, whether it was occupation, all various hard-hitting subjects. Was there ever any points that any of you felt, oh my God, we're really doing this? Or just things that made you question maybe your own morality about certain things, that maybe it changed things? Was there ever any points that you thought, okay, we're going here now?
Well, I would go back to Rejoin. That was definitely an episode where it was like, this is going to be groundbreaking, and it's more appropriate for Dax to play this part than any other, you know, kind of splashy sitcom that where 2 girls were kissing, and it was just a thing then. It actually had a point to the story. But I even think Dax and Worf being married, an interracial relationship, but that didn't feel so groundbreaking to me. It just seemed like that's kind of cool that we're doing this, and we're two aliens, but we're really a white woman and a brown man. I mean, let's just say it. So I think I got lucky there, but I felt more like, yay, I get to do something I believe in, not, oh, this makes me question or look at something differently. It just feels like we're all pretty liberal, so whenever we got a chance to do something that was all-inclusive and made people feel good about, you know, accepting other people for who they are, not just tolerating them, that we were doing what our mission was supposed to be for Star Trek.
I kind of have a similar, I agree and disagree at the same time with Terry, in the sense that I feel that because we were there for such a long period of our lives, 7 years, which is longer than any span of education I've ever had, I can't imagine not having learned something by mistake every week from the scripts that come out, and I kind of make them my own. So I'm sure that sort of subliminally I felt pretty confident about what I knew, but I was just picking up all this stuff the writers were feeding us every week. So I'm sure we did learn
I
stuff.
get what you're saying.
Don't realize that we were learning stuff.
No, and you're right. It did expand my mind, but more, not because, but what?
Not the big social issues,
right, right.
But just
yeah.
the wisdom of that you have to kind of ask
yeah.
that was original, wonderful.
And we were in it, like, in the trenches.
Yeah,
yeah.
It wasn't, I mean, it was not as groundbreaking as perhaps what was it called, Mirror Man? I can't remember, the black and white face guys from the original series who didn't like each other because one was black on the other side of their face to the other one, which is like perfect Star Trek, because it sort of takes something so obvious that everybody can understand it. And we kind of dabbled in that sort of thing, and we did big sweeping stuff about homelessness, disability, transgenderism, you name it. But it wasn't that, it was the subtle stuff that I think I learned.
And I think maybe not this, for me too, not just the scripts, but then how we were all working together as a group, and just that whole, the seriousness of the show, as trying to find lightness, that our lives were we were on the set more than we were in our lives. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, we have time for one last question for this group. I know you've had your hand up a few times. Has your question been answered? You got it?
I'm Carlos from Trek News. Kind of the question, obviously, it's the 25th anniversary. You look back on the show. You've talked about a lot of the things that you're most proud of that you've learned. But what is that one thing that you haven't talked about yet? That when you think back on Deep Space Nine, especially, it's amazing to me. I mean, I started watching this when I was 12, right? And I grew up with the show, loved the show. It's my favorite Star Trek. What is that one memory from you guys from the set, from a particular episode that you haven't talked about yet? That just kind of puts a smile on your face.
Well, I didn't do but 3 episodes of Deep Space Nine, so I got to tell you that the one thing I remember most is how nice the paycheck was, to tell you the truth. But, they all had a philosophy, but all of Star Trek helped change the world with all the things you've been talking about, inclusion of the transgender and all of that. And really, that's all I know about Deep Space Nine. No special memories. I do have some of the others, but we're not talking about that here. Bob?
I got to learn Ferengis. I did a show with Armin Shimmerman, and we had done Shakespeare together. We'd been in Shakespeare class together. We had done a lot of fun stuff. And it was just all the wonderful characters of Deep Space Nine. There was one basic glue, and that was something we all learned in theater, and most of us are from theater, is the basic glue of love. And there was lots of it on that set, particularly with the cast and the crew too. It was a wonderful place to be.
Okay, and with that, please welcome our guests. Thank you very much. And
thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Have fun this weekend. I will.
Right, okay. So the next group is a bit of an alien treat for you. We have Hugh Borg, the Romulan spy Patak, and from Voyager, the Cardassian spy Seska. Please give a warm welcome to Jonathan Del Arco, Steve Rankin, and Martha Hackett. Okay, questions? Yep.
Hi, Sam Lesser. I just wanted to know, you all started, and still are, actors. Was there ever a moment where you thought, when you had an audition for Star Trek, that, oh no, now I'm going to be an actor that was in Star Trek? Am I ever going to be just an actor again? Did you feel like you lost where you started from?
I'll go first. I couldn't wait to be on Star Trek. And I'll tell you, I was just looking on, you know, Facebook does these little welcome to your anniversary days. The first one of these conventions I did was 13 years ago in Dusseldorf, Germany. And I have to say that it is the gift that keeps on giving. And at the moment, whenever I was so excited that I got on Star Trek, because I grew up with the 60s series. And to this day, I'm still excited to be on Star Trek and to be here because of all of you people. I even got to play a character from the 60s series on the final episode of Enterprise. So, yeah, I'm okay with being on Star Trek. I have no problem with it. And I'm still an actor, and I don't think it's done anything to it.
Yes, I agree. When I first got the job on a Star Trek show, because I've done lots of iterations of it, I thought, you know, I'm going to be part of TV history. And you can't say that about every TV show you do, not nearly. And I agree, it is the gift that keeps on giving. But I thought it's sort of epic in a way, in its way. And honestly, the things that I feel are my strengths as an actor, because I mostly do theater, were things I could really use on this show. And in the roles that I did, because I always have a mask of some kind. And I felt like there was a sort of a symbiotic relationship between the work I was normally doing and the work I was able to do on this show, which is not true for other TVs or film, I would think. So for me, I mean, I always got to get back to what I was doing before anyway, so it's been all good.
Because I was so young when I did it, and early in my career, I had no real concept of it being something that would cement some idea of who I was as an actor. And it's been 29, 30 years, something like that, since Next Gen. And I've gotten to do other work as an actor, but inevitably there is always someone, sometimes even a young kid, that has just watched, you know, the show on Netflix that will identify me as the character. And so it's kind of amazing to know that something you did a long time ago, you could still have a relevance to talk about it today. And of course, with all the new Star Trek shows happening, it keeps getting more and more relevant. But no, I don't think it's diminished at all my ability to consider myself an actor. I was also in a lot of makeup, so it's easy to kind of like not wear the makeup and be someone else. But no, extremely grateful for it.
Okay, next question. Yep, at the front.
Hi there, Lee Hutchison from the Nerd Party. It's a question for Jonathan, kind of inspired by your t-shirt. What kind of public figures or politicians do you feel out there at the moment represent the values that we kind of share as Star Trek fans? There seems to be a real lack of them here in the UK and America. Who inspires you at the moment? You think that's someone that could lead us into that kind of generation?
Well, I am wearing the shirt because this guy is inspiring me a lot. He's running for Senate in Texas, and I'm hoping, whether he wins or loses, that he runs for president. It's people like this man, Beto O'Rourke, who are talking about the equality of all people, dealing with our issues as human beings, not as hateful of each other, finding common ground, creating a country that isn't in constant strife and anger. So I have great hope for people like that to rise up, though I think it's, I mean, I turned the TV on this morning and heard a really angry debate about Brexit, and I thought, oh wow, I was so excited to leave America to not hear TV for a while, and here they are arguing a similar kind of anger-filled, confusing, stupid argument that we're fighting in America as well. So it's really a hard time right now, I think, to be in a democracy. So I hope we rise above it.
Okay, we have time for one last question. Yep, at the front. Sorry, I don't mean to make you run all the way across.
Hi, it's a question for Jonathan. My name's Clive from Some Kind of Star Trek. It's actually off back of what Lee was talking about. So Hugh Borg was in 2 episodes of Next Generation, and he became kind of that figure for the group that he represented. I mean, how do you think that kind of relates to what you're going through, what we're talking about at the moment, and the political statement we're talking about with Lee there? How do you think that kind of role that Hugh had relates to today?
I think, you mean the leadership role?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's the great thing about Star Trek, that no matter which Star Trek you watch, there is some kind of political or social relevance to what's happening at any given time. You know, certainly in the collective, the idea of someone from a hated group, which was the Borg, becoming an individual and humanizing an alien race that was considered to be a threat to the Federation. You know, you could talk about immigrants that way now. You could talk about, you know, the refugee crises as that as well. There's so many current issues that are happening. I mean, I didn't do Star Trek and suddenly become political, but I did become very political maybe about 10 years after doing Star Trek, and getting to talk to people, I think, you know, at the conventions, and getting to show my point of view about issues and not being afraid to speak up at Star Trek conventions, I think opened me up to the things I do politically. I campaign for candidates and that sort of thing. So one fed the other. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Can I jump in on that for a second? I think, you know, the tumult that is going on in the United States right now, it's so unbelievable. So when you want to talk about this, what is Star Trek, what do you think about the characters of Star Trek as far as being political figures? First of all, the people in Star Trek and the characters in Star Trek, they have compassion, they have concern, and they also have a conscience. Okay? And these seem to be qualities of character that doesn't exist right now. So anytime we can have anything that has a positive statement, particularly, I mean, and a simple positive statement that is an antidote to the insanity that is going on in our culture right now, it's a balm for everything. I mean, you know, it's amazing. You can't turn the TV on. I mean, it's exhausting. I'm sure you are exhausted from it too.
And depressing as hell.
Very depressing. So it's a general malaise that is all the way over our country. So, you know, when I look at Star Trek, I mean, you know, I don't hear anybody that can say anything bad about Star Trek. Primary objective, okay? What are we out there for? We're out there to make sure that we don't disturb anything and leave things as they were whenever we came, right? Okay? Well, that's not what's going on in the world right now. There's a lot of damage that's going on, so I think being here is a balm for me, I certainly can say. So here.
I'm afraid we have to cut you short at this point because we are running behind now. Please give a round of applause.
And come and hear us, the Enterprise Blues Band, Saturday night!
We're running a little bit behind, so I will remind some of our journalists about the rule of keeping it to Star Trek and not other things. So, the next section. We have from Quark's Bar, we have Quark, Rom, Nog, and Lita. Please welcome Armin Shimmerman, Max Grodenchik, Aaron Eisenberg, and Chase Masterson. Okay, questions?
Hello. Hello.
Hey, kids! How are you?
I wanted to, Aaron, why have you just been sat right down here? Questions? Hands up if you've got a question. Yes.
Good morning.
If you can run across to the lady there.
Talk. Say something.
All right, hi. My name is Ella. I'm here for a podcast called Enterprising Individuals. And I wanted to ask, given the timing of the documentary and our socio-political climate right now, what do you think the lasting legacy of Deep Space Nine is, and how do you think it stays so relevant?
We are a little bit more relevant than some of the other early in the morning for me, Star Trek shows, mainly because of the format. A lot of Star Trek shows are, not the latest one, but the earlier ones are all individual episodes that sort of stop after a while. There can be recurring themes, even recurring characters, but our story arc would expand over a long period of time, and that's in keeping with a lot of long-form TV that we have nowadays. That's one of the things. The other thing is, I think we dealt with diversity in a deeper way, perhaps, than some of the other shows. And I must give credit to the people on stage and the people that will follow us or the people who came before us. The quality of actors that we had on our show, I would put up against any other TV show. We had an enormous backlog of talent.
Also, in terms of the issues and how the show stays relevant, it's because it was about transcendent themes. The themes of family and war and peace and the cost of war and integrity and what you do when the chips are down that shows who you are. All of those things are transcendent, and it comes out of the writers' hearts, who are all really incredible writers who've gone on to do most hit shows on television, really, or many of them. So in that our show was about boldly going into who we were as people and into relationships, as opposed to boldly going into another world or another planet. That's something that is very compelling for all of us, right? Relationships are transcendent.
Okay, next question. Yep.
Hiya, Wayne from the Sci-Fi Collective and Trackmate. With Deep Space Nine being such a heavy show at some points, with some of the points in...
You realize you're talking to the Ferengi family here.
Exactly.
Very heavy.
That's the thing.
Very heavy.
I was pretty heavy.
Well, that's the thing. That's exactly what I was going to say. With the Ferengi playing such a vital role to alleviate some of that heaviness and to bring some of the lightheartedness, as well as the heart of having a family that can be torn between profit and career and things like that. Was there any point, especially with you, Aaron, where you had to deal with PTSD? Not yourself, but with Nog. There had to be a transition to how you approached your character from being the light-hearted parts of the show to then having to go very deep and serious, because all of you have had those moments in the stories where you've had to address the character in a slightly different way. So what was your approach when addressing such heavy issues, being the light-hearted side of the show?
That's a very good question. You know, it's
truthfully, it's similar in life. You know, in life, we're not all one tone. In life, we're not all happy all the time, and we're not all sad or depressed or angry or deep, as you would say, all the time. We're always peaks and valleys. Our life is incredibly colorful, and so are we, as Ferengi, as Bajorans. We're all different facets of the jewel of being a part of humanity, of being a Ferengi. And for Nog, I mean, the one hard part, I think, in how I approached it was Nog was very gregarious. He was very out there, you know. He was very energetic, very full of life. And in this part, I kind of equated it maybe a little bit to my own life. And I think my personality is a lot out there. But when I was on dialysis or when I was sick, my personality was subdued. It was brought way down, which I think is pretty human, if you will. I think we all treat life that way. When we're upset or we're not feeling good, we're not out there still going, hey, you know, we're not doing all the things we normally do. So in that episode particularly, I should say, I felt Nog was really just in a different place. As we all become, or as all of us get into different places within our lives. And I think that's how I approached it. And fortunately, I had a lot from my past to reach back into, and what that was like for me, even as a gosh, how old was I there? 25, 24, 25, 26, somewhere in there? Because of the experiences I was fortunate enough, if you will, if I could say that, to go through, to give me that to pull from. So, you know, I think it's just part of life, you know?
Okay, we've got time for one more question. I think somebody had their hand up over on this side. Oh, it's been answered, okay. Any other questions? Yes, at the back.
It's so dark.
Yeah, is there something with the lights? They seem to have all gone off.
Well,
at
it's
this
Deep
point.
Space Nine. I thought you made it this dark because it's Deep Space Nine.
Because you started talking about it being dark, and it's just they're mood lighting for you.
Hello, my name's Matt. My name's Matt from iSkyler.com. Just a question for Mr. Shimmerman. My daughter is going to be 12 in a week. Her two favourite shows at the moment are Deep Space Nine and Buffy. And if she were here, I think she would want me to ask you, what was it like when you were playing both those roles at the same time?
They inspired each other for me. I had the very good fortune to be in, I believe, all the episodes of Deep Space Nine. That's 172 episodes during the course of 7 years, 26 episodes a season. If you were to ask the actors on the show who had the similar schedules, that after a while, it wasn't always exciting, but at times tiresome. And because I would go off to do Buffy, I would be all the more excited to come back to Deep Space Nine because I had been away, I had performed in different character, a different part of my brain, just as Aaron was talking about, was being used, a different part of my personality was being used. So it was like having a holiday between episodes. And for 3 years, I would switch back and forth pretty much every week or every other week between Deep Space Nine and Buffy. It was a privilege that I thank my lucky stars I was given. I especially owe it to a man named Steve Oster, who made sure that it was possible for me to do that. On other Star Trek shows, it is enormously unusual for the actors on the show to be allowed to go off and do other shows. I'm very grateful to all the people who made that happen. Now someone has to ask Max a question, otherwise he's just going to sit here like a bump on the wall.
And with that, I'm afraid that's all we have time for these guys. Thank you very much. Please. Unfortunately, that's it. But you can see them during their panels during the event. I'm afraid we have another wave we have to go through. We are running really late.
We're all in our Ferengi makeup, is that right?
Yes.
So you have to come see us in our Ferengi makeup and get a photo op with us. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. I'm back. Anybody else have a question?
And if you think that's chaotic, I'm interviewing them in character this weekend. And the reason we had to rush it is I've just been told we do have an extra person to add onto the list, and we're running a little bit late, but we won't be so late that you won't be able to interview William later on. This is our last group of Deep Space Nine guests. Esri Dax and Jake Sisko, Nicole Badibora and Stuart Lofton, and with them is the DS9 showrunner, Iron Stephen Bear! Okay, first question. Hands in the air. Yep, at the end. Hang on. Run, run! I don't know, is there any way we can get the lights on a bit? It's gone really dark here. Oh, okay, the power's gone off in a section. Okay, that's fine. And feel free to sit if you want to, or if you prefer to stand. Okay, yes.
Okay, it's Baz here from the Digital Fix. Question for Nicole. What was it like coming into DS9 with the final season with an established cast?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot. You'd think it would be hard, but it was super easy because it was already, you know, this well-oiled machine, and they just welcomed me. And I liked that as my scenes with Esri, I would have a scene with a character, so it was my opportunity as Nicole to work with that actor, and Esri saying, hey, it's me. And it felt very natural. Yeah, I wish I had but it really just felt good and right.
Okay, next question. Yes, Track Island, at the side.
What was your proudest moment of the show?
Is that to everybody, yeah?
Well, you know, watching the doc, I mean, we're going to talk about the documentary.
I think it means
during the show. Just being there in general for me. There's so many moments. Ira, what about?
It's hard to take pride in anything because it's such a collective effort. Everybody's working together to make it happen. So it's not an individual success. It's a collaborative one. The pride is the overarching quality of work where I can look back and not be embarrassed that I did this, and be happy that I can put my name on something like this, something that stands the test of time and has a quality in it that makes it kind of important in the overall legacy of television.
Well, I have a lot. I was there for the whole thing. At the time, probably the thing that at the moment gave me the biggest satisfaction was when we finally, after 3 years, got the powers that be to allow Avery Brooks to look the way he wanted to look since day one of the show, which was shave the head and wear the goat. So that took 3 seasons to get to that place. And when we had that big sit down with Paramount, and we were ready to do whatever we needed to do to finally say yes, and they totally caved. We went in there waiting for a fight, and we showed them the footage of Avery, how he looked, and they said, okay, why it took 3 years, I don't know. But that was, at the moment, that was like, it felt like the biggest success.
Okay, we've got time for one more question. No, oh, yep, Riker's beard.
James Riker's beard. My question is for Ira. Could you be involved in any Trek projects moving forward right now?
Could I be physically? Yes.
Yes, please.
I mean, I could. I mean, there's nothing in writing that says I can't. I think, you know, what I would imagine is they're just looking to move forward into the future, and I'm sure they look at us as guys who have paved that way for the future. No one's ever asked me to, you know, what I thought of the show or anything like that. So or any of the shows. So it's really nothing I've given much thought to. But
I think everyone would agree that they should ask.
I don't know about everyone. That's a lot of people. Are they all here? I'd like to meet them. Just say thanks. But you know, I mean, I spent 1 year on TNG and 7 on Deep Space, and I'm extremely proud of the legacy of the show and what the show did for me and what I did for the show. So, you know, it's everything else is theoretical, you know. And we, in the documentary, we do break episode 1 of a mythical season 8, so people would see at least what Deep Space would look like if we were doing the show today. At least 1 day's worth of thought towards that.
And with that, I'm afraid we're out of time. Thank you very much, guys. Right, we have one extra guest to bring out. We hadn't realised that they were going to be here. They've literally come straight from the airport, straight onto the stage. Please give a warm welcome to the Borg Queen, Alice Krige. Now, I know this is quite a late one. You might not have questions, but if you do, put your hand up.
Hello everyone, just before we start. Good to be here, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, welcome. My name is Matt, I'm from iSkyler.com.
Hi, Matt.
Star Trek First Contact is one of my favourite movies. I absolutely love your performance in it. I think one thing that was surprising seeing it is how much sensuality a character like that would have had. How much of that was already on the page? How much did you bring to it? What was your reaction when you were playing that?
I guess it must have been inherent in the role because it kind of came out. And she does use her sexuality to manipulate. So yeah, it was actually in the role, it was embedded in the role. But I always speak of the Borg Queen as a collaborative effort. Because the truth is, you really can't imagine her without that amazing head, and for that matter, the body. And the body was very interesting because I saw a very early drawing, and they actually had her in a dress. There were Borg elements, but she was wearing a dress. And at some point that got jettisoned, and they came up with the bodysuit idea. And the first bodysuit shrank. It did something that rubber is simply not meant to do. It shrank. And so it was too tight. And it was really quite difficult to walk in. So it kind of made me walk. It was like walking, stretching rubber bands. And really, to be honest, that's where that very physical kind of body came from. It wasn't deliberate on my part. It was an outgrowth of the costume that I was given, which is the serendipitous joy of working collaboratively, is that you get given so much by the group you're part of, and hopefully give something in return. A brilliant guy called Todd Masters made the suit. And of course, Scott Wheeler designed and created the head. All sorts of tiny things, like that very glossy look was KY jelly, right?
the last one because it is very much a photo shoot. We're going to have one final thing. Remember, there are no questions, we can't answer any. But please welcome, we have Captain Lorca, Paul Stamets, Dr. Cabot, the Klingons Llewellyn Cole, Danny Connor and Admiral Cornwall. Please welcome Jason Isaacs, Anthony Rapp, Mary Chapo, Ken Mitchell, Sam Bartholomew and Jane Brooke.
Are we doing the mic?
Security, can we get them to come to stand by that so they can take photos against that? We go against black. Does that work? Yeah.